Well, we're going to talk a little bit about science now. We know from our reading yesterday that God created everything on the earth, the rocks and the soil, the streams, the mountains, even the water. He created all of that. And he created other non-living things. And how did he create all these things? Well, he spoke them into existence. He took, he made something out of nothing, which we can't do, can we? But the earth changed. When Adam and Eve sinned, there was change that happened on the earth. When the people had been sinning in Noah's time, and God decided to destroy things with a flood, that caused a lot of change on the earth's surface. Even today, the earth continues to change. A lot of these changes are natural, and we talked yesterday about the ocean when a wave comes up. There are times when I see a shell that I want, and before I can pick it up, a wave will come and take it away. Every time a wave washes up on the beach, there's change. But when there's a hurricane and the waves become very, very strong and boy, big change happens then, doesn't it? The wind and the harsh circumstances in a hurricane can literally wash away a lot of the sand in a beach, and the beach looks a lot different after the hurricane has come and gone. Greatly changes the beach. But people can also cause change when we build a house, when we build a road, when we kick a rock. When you're out in Red Rock Canyon and you're taking a hike and you kick a rock or maybe bend a plant as you're walking through, that causes change too. Mining causes big changes on the Earth's surface and under the surface. And I wish we could have gone to McCaw School of Mines. We would learn mine provides rocks or metals, and that some of those mines have tunneled deep into the under the surface of the earth. But open pit mining, which we've talked about, also causes a lot of change on the Earth's surface. We learned about landforms. Landforms are physical features on the Earth. Mountains, canyons, reefs, islands, those are all landforms. And many of those were caused from movement on the Earth's surface. And what are some of those things that can push upward, push some, of the, cause parts of the surface to push upward? Well, one of those is volcanoes. Volcano is a crack in the surface of the earth in which lava, which is molten rock or melted rock, lava comes forth out of. And when a volcano erupts and this hot lava and rocks are forced out of that crack in the earth, the lava and rock pile up and cool, and that's how we have mountains or islands that are formed that way. The earth is not a solid rock. The outside layer is actually made of large parts that fit together, and sometimes these parts move against each other, and that sudden movement is an earthquake. We call that an earthquake. During an earthquake, some rock may be pushed upward, and some may be pushed downward. The movements cause changes to the surface of the earth. Now I'm looking at page 190, and I see that there are some changes from weathering. Some forces wear away the surface of the earth, and water is one of those forces that can wear away rocks. I want to show you this little basket that was my grandma's, but I filled it up with rocks. And do you notice that, no, there's two birds in there, but the rocks have been, some of them have kind of a smooth appearance, and that's happened from weathering. Weathering is the process of breaking rocks into smaller pieces, and some natural causes of weathering are water, wind, and, believe it or not, plants. Dripping water can cause weathering. When water constantly flows over a rock, it slowly wears it away. And that's why we see a more smooth appearance on the rock. Let's see if I can find one that, well, some of these are smoother than others. But let's see. Here's one, if I can get it out. It's been smoothed, hasn't it? Look at that little heart. But it's smooth. It broke off and it was probably jagged, but from weathering, the surface became pretty smooth. So slowly, over many, many years, the surface of the rock is slowly worn away and it becomes smoother. Some of that water can come into a crack of a rock, and if the weather is real cold and the temperature dips below freezing, that water, what happens to water when it freezes? Well, it expands, and it expands inside that rock if it's freezing, and it can crack the rock more or totally break it up. And we see on the top of 191, that ice and that rock worked like a wedge. Do you see the cracks there? Wow, those cracks are pretty wide. This may cause parts of the rock to chip away or even break apart. Rocks can also be moved by ice. When water under and around the rock freezes, the ice can move the rock upward. That's why stones in colder regions are sometimes found on or near the surface of the ground in the spring, because they've been moved upward by that frozen water, that ice. And in addition to moving rocks to the surface, ice loosens the soil, and this causes the soil to expand and separate, and that makes it easier to plant things in the spring. Plants can grow better in loosened soil. Now let's turn, 192, let's talk about abrasion. Abrasion, that's another type of weathering. It's the process of wearing away rocks by friction. Most abrasion happens when water or wind causes rocks to rub against other rocks or against sand. The abrasive action causes the surface of the rocks to become smooth. And moving water, now I would say some of the rocks we find in Red Rock Canyon are more, let's see if I even have one here. I guess this is one. This is from Yosemite. Wow, I wrote on the back. But this is rock. This is many small rocks that, because of pressure, were pressed together, so you can see. But even that has been smoothed. It's not completely smooth, but it isn't jagged, is it, boys and girls? And that's because this rock was their abrasion happened, and it caused the jagged parts to smooth down. That's what we see a lot in the rocks that we find in Red Rock Canyon. They're smoother only because of the abrasive action of wind and sand and other rocks. It's worn the jagged parts away. So the surface of that rock becomes a little bit smoother. Wind can also cause abrasion, blowing sand and bits of, smaller rocks against another rock. And when that hits the surface, it wears the rock away. Plants growing on or under rocks can cause parts of the rocks to weather as well. The roots of a plant, believe it or not, may grow between a crack in a rock. Sometimes you see that. And as the roots grow, it forces the rock to separate and break. So just even a little, what we perceive as pretty soft, the parts of a plant, they don't appear to be as hard as a rock, but those roots can actually expand and grow in the crack of the rock and widen that crack or even break the rock. Roots of ivy, when they climb up the side of a stone wall, can actually wear away the surface of that wall, the stones on that wall, and cause them to have little pits and chips on them. Now, soil. Weathering produces little bits of rock, and these little pieces of rock are the Earth's soil. So when you get a piece of, grab a handful of dirt, you know that those are all little bits of rock in that soil. Soil is the loosened material at the Earth's surface. And some soil is sandy and light, which we see in Las Vegas. Some soil is very dark, and other soil is a mixture of the two. And God provides each environment with the soil needed for the plants and animals to live there. Now, soil is made mostly of bits of weathered rock, and other parts of that are water, air, and humus. Now, what is humus? Well, that's decayed plant and animal material, and it provides nutrients that plants need. Scientists have studied God's design, and now they've made fertilizers and soils that you can buy at Home Depot and Lowe's that are a mixture of these same nutrients. The fertilizers improve soil and help plants to grow and stay healthy. Now, why are some soil, when you look at Mrs. Jane's soils and dirt and, sand up in my classroom, why do they look so different? Different sand specimens and dirt specimens from other parts of the country look different from ours, don't they? Well, different kinds of rocks are in all those different soils, different minerals. Not all soil has the same look and feel. The bits of weathered rock in soils are different sizes. Scientists place the bits into 3 groups. The largest bits of weathered rock in the soil is called sand. You find a lot of that on the beach. And silt particles are even smaller than the sand particles, and the smallest yet are clay particles. Those are the smallest. Particles of silt and clay are so small that sometimes you need a microscope to really see them. Most soil is a combination of sand, silt, and clay. The amount of each determines how well the soil holds and drains water, which is important when you're trying to grow plants. The combination of particle sizes also determines the plants and animals that can live in that soil. Now on page 194, we see a picture of the layers of soil. Not all soil has the same layers. It forms in layers, but not all soil has the same layers. Soil in some areas may have only 2 layers, whereas soil in others may have 3 or even more layers. The layers are also not all the same thicknesses. Some layers may be only a few centimeters thick, whereas others can be several meters thick. Well, look at that. We have way on the bottom bedrock. On top of the bedrock, we have what we call subsoil, and then the topsoil. Well, let's read about those. The layers of soil closest to the surface are topsoil and subsoil. Topsoil is the layer that contains the humus, and the humus often gives topsoil a deep, brown, rich color. Most plants grow in the fertile topsoil. That part is where the plants grow. Now, many insects and small living things also live there. Under the topsoil is what we call subsoil, and that's a layer that is made mostly of coarse rocks, and they've been a little weathered. It doesn't contain any humus, though, and so that's why it's not good soil for growing plants. The color of the subsoil depends on what type of rocks are there. We already talked about that. What type of rocks make that soil up. Now, the layer of rock that lies below these layers is called bedrock, and it's solid. That rock is solid. It has not been weathered. The rocks in subsoil are weathered, but the bedrock is not, and it is solid. Now, many large buildings are built, we know, builders know this, to build it on bedrock. But one building that was not built on bedrock is in Italy, and it's called the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Oh boy, that you see how much that is leaning over, isn't it? Well, the tower was built on soft, wet land, and that's why it didn't stand erect. It was started in 1173, the year 1173, and almost immediately it began to lean over. Now, since it was built, it's needed constant repair, and great care has kept it from falling over. In 2008, the officials declared the tower was stable for the first time in history. Boy, oh my. Isn't that funny? Now, let's look at our activity manual really quickly. Yesterday, I want to ask you on page 136 in your activity manual, that first picture, what do you think caused the weathering shown in that picture? Yeah, ice or frost weathering. That water got into a crack in the rock and it expanded when the weather got cold enough, and it actually broke that rock. Can you see that rock is broken in two? Now, number two, what do you think is making those rocks there have such smooth edges? You're right, the water. The water is flowing. It looks like it's a stream or river, and it's flowing right over those rocks. Well, now number three looks like our home, Las Vegas. I see a Joshua tree there. What do you think is weathering the rocks there? Well, the wind blowing those bits of sand and against those rocks. Now in number four, oh my, somebody's beautiful brick wall has been cracked by what? Yeah, the roots of a tree or a plant. Now, on the bottom, they gave you a word bank, and there were words. It says, write each of the following under the correct heading. The headings are upward force and wearing away force. And you were to look at those 5 words and put them in the proper category. Well, upward force, what causes things to move upward? Well, yeah, an earthquake or volcano. So you're going to write earthquake and volcano, and I know you already did that yesterday. Just check your answers right now, fix them if they need to be fixed. I still need a picture of this to make sure you got it done, and I will grade it. Wearing away force. What are the forces that wear the surface of a rock away? Well, abrasion, right? Yeah, that's right. Frost weathering also. And the third one, weathering. All right, let's turn to our work for today. Page 137, and I believe you're to do 138 also. Now, true or false? If the sentence is false, we're going to write the correction. The surface of the earth is always changing. Yeah, true. Changes on the surface of the earth may happen slowly or rapidly. Yeah, true. Number 3, volcanoes and earthquakes can push land upward. Yes, true. Number 4, natural causes of weathering include water, wind, or mountains. No, mountains doesn't go there. Oh my goodness. What would we put in that in place of mountains? What are the 3 things? Water, wind, or plants? Yeah, write plants for number 4. Number 5, as plant roots grow, they can cause rocks to form. No, they cause plants to break or crack. So write break, B-R-E-A-K. Now number 6, mountains, canyons, reefs, and islands are some of the physical features on the Earth's surface, and we call those landforms. Yes. Number 7, many landforms were shaped by movements that push blank or wear blank the Earth's surface. They push what? upward, upward, or they wear away the Earth's surface. So in the first line upward, the second line away. Number 8, a process of breaking down rocks into smaller pieces is called, weathering. And number 9, soil is made of weathered rock, blank, air, and humus. What's that other thing that makes up soil? Water. Now, decayed plant and animal material in soil is called, that's that H word, humus. Humus. And then number 11, the 3 sizes of weathered rock found in soil are blank, silt, and clay. Well, what are those biggest particles called again? Sand. Yes. Now turn the page. Match the description. We've got the topsoil, under that is subsoil, and at the very bottom is bedrock. We're supposed to match the description with the correct term. The layer in which most plants grow, A, B, or C? A, the topsoil. Number 13, the layer that is mostly coarse weathered rock without any humus. Well, that would be B, subsoil. And number 14, the solid unweathered rock under the layers of soil has no weathering, no humus, and it's solid. What is that again? Oh yeah, the bedrock, C. Now number 15, the layer that contains the humus, of course, is that top part, which is A, the topsoil. Now 16, 17, and 18, write the correct letter for the correct answer. This happens when water in and around rocks and soil freezes and expands, breaking up the rocks. What is that again, boys and girls? Frost weathering, abrasion, or humus? Yeah, the frost weathering. Number 17, this happens as water or wind gradually wears away rock by friction. Would that be frost action? Would that be abrasion? Or would it be humus? Abrasion, yeah. That's the force that actually happens when wind gradually wears away the rock by friction. Abrasion. And this is the loose material at the surface of the earth. Would that be abrasion, soil, or landforms? Well, the loose material at the very top of the earth, the surface of the earth, is soil. All right, let's close our books and make sure that you send me a picture to make sure that I know that you completed those pages. Thank you. God bless you. I love you. Happy Easter.